So finally, we get to applying the information assurance model. What to do with all of this stuff. What to do with this cool model. And I'll just bring up the model. The lovely and talented information assurance model. It's kind of cool, isn't it? So we know people, process, and technology are always part of information assurance or protection, information security, if you will. This is something, again, that the NSA, the National Security Agency, really promotes heavily. I firmly believe in. Whenever you're looking at a broad level at information assurance or data protection or IT security in any way, you've got to think in these three areas. What kind of people protection do I have? What kind of process protection do I have? What kind of technology protection do I have against known threats and unknown threats? And the reason I stress this model so much is because it's not just us that know about this model. It's hackers. I've been teaching ethical hacking classes for quite a long time. I've been doing a lot of hacker research over the years. I've written stuff on it. I've done videos on it. All that kind of stuff. I've gone to hacker conferences, blah, blah, blah. So I'm fairly familiar with a lot of that stuff. And while I'm definitely not the expert on it, because if I was, I'd be wearing a ski mask and a black suit, and the production crew would be doing my voice, you know, to make it sound like some kind of weird synthesizer. I can tell you that hackers or attackers know about this model. They're familiar with it. It's been published for years and years and years. It's kind of a core security model. So when an attacker is looking to model an attack, when an attacker is looking to compromise information or IT in your organization, they're looking at these three key elements as well. And they're thinking to themselves, okay, what kind of technology? That's the easiest, that's the quickest. What kind of firewalls do they have? What kind of web servers do they have? What kind of wireless networking and wired networking do they have? Can I hack through that? How difficult or easy is that going to be? All right, what kind of processes does this company have? This is where most of us don't expect attackers to think or hackers to think. Where do they buy their computers from? Where do they get their computers repaired? Where do they actually get their IT contractors from? Does any of this making you cringe a little bit? Because if an attacker can get a job at the company that you outsource your IT to, they don't need to worry about all that cool, fancy trillion-dollar technology, firewall and IPS and IDS that you stick in place. They'll just get a job with the company that services it or manages it. Or where do you buy your computers? You buy them at the nameless big box store up the street. Cool. They'll go there and get a job and actually put some software on your machines before you get them. If you don't have a process in place to actually sanitize the machines or redeploy the machines before you put them into place, they're attacking the process side of the equation. Maybe they're attacking the process side of hiring. Maybe they'll get a job at your company. It's very easy compared to hacking through technology in many cases to just get a job at a company. And there's been documentation of this countless times. I'd probably get sued if I told you some of the stories, but trust me, attackers know that sometimes hacking through a firewall or hacking advanced cryptography like you see on some of these television shows or on these YouTube channels, hacking these technologies or bringing up all these windows or having massive computers, sometimes it's easier to just get a job at that place. And if there's no background check, no vetting process, they've worked around the entire technology hurdle with process. And then people, on the people side of the equation, an attacker is thinking to themselves, can I just social engineer a password? Can I just, instead of hacking a password or putting a password sniffer or a keyboard sniffer in place, how about I just ask nicely? My mother taught me that. My mother actually, I call it my mom's attack, because my mother used to say, Michael, if you want something from somebody, just ask nicely. And that always stuck with me, Mom. So she said, just ask nicely. How often can you get a password out of someone at an organization if they don't understand not giving passwords out? Happens all the time. Technically, it's called social engineering, but just asking nicely doesn't even qualify as social engineering. Social engineering is usually a little more complicated. Impersonating a help desk or impersonating a contractor is usually more social engineering. But attackers know those things as well. And then let's not forget the old classic, Old tricks are the best tricks is one of my favorite Fifth Element quotes. In this case, old trick being bribing people. You want a password. If an attacker wants a password from someone, they may say, wow, it'll take me a while to get through their process. Their processes are clean. Their supply chain is very tight. It's hard to get a job there. It's hard to infiltrate the contractor's process like that. Technology is exceptionally advanced. They spend a lot of money on firewalls and IPS and all that stuff. But you know what? They've got a bunch of people, underpaid, disgruntled employees at this company, and I could probably just give somebody $100 or $200 and have them write down their password for me, or let me sit at their computer for a few minutes while they go take a coffee break. That's the unpleasant, unfortunate reality, is that an attacker is going to look at these three key elements, and depending on what they believe is the weak spot in your organization or in your structure, they're going to go right after the weak spot, the one that's going to get them what they want the quickest. So what I try to explain and reinforce here when explaining how I use the model is I look at all three of these and I determine where I would actually put the most effort or money or time trying to control. Many companies have great technology, have moderate process, and have really weak people security. So when I'm asked how would you secure our environment, or what would you do to protect our enterprise, the answer is I would spend the money where an attacker will see it as a weak spot. And so oftentimes it's people, followed by process. Sometimes technology, but not usually. I used to work with a guy many years ago named Chase, and what he would do is he would actually model these things as, if you had $100 to spend on security, how would you divide it up between these three areas? How would you carve it up? And that's the kind of thought process that I think the information assurance model lends itself to nicely, is if you have a fixed budget or if you have fixed time to help protect or defend against attacks, think about these three areas and at a very high level decide, where would I want to spend the money based on all of these different factors? That helps you plan out your security and helps you effectively defend against real attacks by spending the money and time and energy and controlling the spaces that an attacker will find the most tempting and will be the most vulnerable in your enterprise.